Welcome to the Emotional Eating Unwrapped podcast. I'm your host, Alana Kessler, an emotional eating and weight loss coach for women looking to fall in love with eating, create healthy attachments with food, and lose weight sustainably. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another new episode of Emotional Eating Unwrapped. I'm your host, Alana Kessler, and I am excited to be here today. I just came back from a swim and I am feeling really inspired to talk today about this topic. And today we're going to talk about therapy. We're going to talk about talk therapy. We're going to talk about the different modalities that people use to support them in overcoming emotional eating, to support them in changing behaviors, and the different ways that we can approach how we seek support. Because I think it's really important that we take a look at some other methodologies, maybe exploring some alternative and energetic practices as ways to heal and as ways to get support. Because I think that when it comes to behavior change, we very much lean heavily in the talk therapy space. And I want to talk today a little bit about another point of view I have around that. Now, I'm not going to hate on talk therapy. I'm a huge fan of talk therapy. I think talk therapy is so helpful. I have engaged in talk therapy and invested in talk therapy for so many years of my life. I would say that I started therapy when I was about 18 years old. I put myself into therapy in college, and it was so amazingly helpful for me to be able to just say things out loud, make these connections, feel heard without judgment, feel heard without being scared of some sort of reaction from the person that I was telling, or, really being able to just say things in a completely unfiltered manner. And for me, as somebody who held in my feelings a lot, it was definitely one of my triggers for emotional eating. Having that really safe space to speak and use my words and have my voice be heard in that way was extremely important. And I want to say that there does come a point, and that's really what this episode is about. There does come a point where it is my personal opinion that talk therapy can end up becoming a bottleneck in your healing. And one of the reasons that I feel that way is because at a certain point, talking about something over and over again and uncovering that box and letting the air out and letting other air in and just continuing to feed energy and feed oxygen into something, there comes a point where after you understand the why, after you understand the how, after you make those connections, continuing to talk about it and talk about the feelings has diminishing returns. And it has diminishing returns in a lot of ways because it makes us tired. And I don't know about you, but when I talk a lot about something or when I would leave a therapy session, I needed a nap sometimes. It is extremely energetically depleting and sometimes can be emotionally exhausting to talk about something that is a struggle or painful, even if there's also a part of it that is really that's really energetically generative. So there's also a part of talking about your struggles or making those connections that feels extremely satisfying. And at the same time, it can be really tiring. And we don't have unlimited energy stores. And when we're in a phase in our lives where we're trying to heal or we're trying to work through some things, it takes a lot of energy to heal. And there's a couple of parts of healing. There's the healing where you need to understand the how you got here and uncover some of the unconscious things that maybe you didn't realize were triggering your behavior. For example, emotional eating, addictive behaviors, weight gain, as I said in other episodes, can be a symptom of emotional eating. And there's that piece of it. And then there's the piece of it where we take that understanding and now we have to actually create the new pathway. And there comes a point where creating the new pathway takes so much energy because there's so much unknown, there's so much faith, there's so much trust, there's so much of everything that you have to have and embody that you weren't locked into and plugged into. You didn't feel confident. You didn't know how to access these feelings of trust and faith because of the struggle. And now we're saying you have to have those things. And so it's really important to recognize that to build up those skills of trust and faith and living in the unknown and putting yourself out there and potentially even feeling feelings again that you're trying to avoid with the coping behaviors, that takes a lot of energy. It requires you to take action. And that action takes energy, like I said. And if we're spending a lot of energy talking about the problem, talking about what we understand about the problem, continuing to talk over and over again about, more of the why, more of the how did I get here? And then we need to rest from that. There can come a point where we deplete our energy resources to actually create our new life. So healing isn't just getting to the root of the issue and healing our wounds with understanding, compassion, recognition, feeling heard, feeling seen. That is definitely key. You can't heal what you can't see. I always say that. But to create the new life, you need to get back into your body. And unfortunately, talk therapy is not that healing modality. Talk therapy is about understanding. It's very brain focused. It's about making new connections in your brain to understand so that your nervous system can relax around something. You're going to have a new perspective, neuroplasticity, right? Like you can have a new perspective. You can let go of maybe some unconscious things because now you have a new consciousness. That's what talk therapy provides. But what talk therapy doesn't provide is getting back into your body. And so when you do too much talk therapy and not enough back into your body, you can become your own bottleneck to your healing. So I want to talk about different ways and different healing modalities that you can use to get back into your body. And I'm not going to go into specifics because that's not the point of this episode. The point of this episode is to really get you to understand why having multiple healing modalities when you're on your healing journey, modalities that incorporate the brain and that part of the nervous system, and modalities that incorporate the body, and different ways that you can move energy and use your body. And some of those, you don't even necessarily need to move yourself. Okay. You don't even need to do it. So for example, yoga, which is a modality that I like to use, you actually have to move your body yourself, right? I have to do shapes. I have to move my body in different ways. And the breath and the visualization and the movement together all move energy in my body and get my cells working in a new way and help me in that healing and helped me in that healing process to really transform my experience, not just transform my understanding. Okay, you need to access and use the body to transform your experience, and you can use the brain to transform your understanding. And so yoga is one of those ways where you can move your body. Walking meditation also, you could move your body. But let's say you're somebody who doesn't necessarily have the ability to move your body like yoga or to walk, right? But you want to still get energy moving through your body and you want to be able to shut off your brain and you still want to get that benefit of the breath and the moving of energy through your body, but you don't have the ability, like I said, to do yoga, to do walking meditation. Another thing that you can do, some other healing modalities, and some of these you might have heard of before, and you might think they're very woo-woo or kind of out there, but I want to expand the frame for you that they're not woo-woo. They're actually ways to move the energy, just like yoga, just like walking meditation. One of those ways is Reiki. So Reiki is energy healing, right? Reiki is energy healing. And sometimes with Reiki, what happens is that you're laying on a bed or you're laying on a mat or something, and somebody else is moving the energy for you, using their hands, moving energy, moving the stuck energy that's in your body. Because as we know, the body holds a lot of our suffering, a lot of our struggle. And once we have new awakenings and awarenesses and understandings from our brains, that doesn't necessarily always translate into the body. So we have to take that awareness from the brain, but then we have to move and use the body to unstagnate some of the wounds that still live in the body. And Reiki is amazing for people who maybe have some issues with movement, but also with touch. So I know for myself that when I was struggling with emotional eating and my destructive behaviors with my body and food, physical touch was very difficult for me. I had a very hard time receiving physical touch, and I would almost freeze sometimes. So I want to normalize for you, if you're listening to this and you're somebody who's like, I don't want someone touching me, Reiki could be a really, really amazing way to get into your body without having to have somebody touching your body, like massage, like when we move energy with massage, or with other modalities where there's touch or there's movement, right? Even with yoga. I know I'm a yoga teacher, and I would always ask people before I would teach them yoga if anybody has an issue with adjustments, because not everybody wants someone's hands on them, on their actual physical body. And so Reiki, even though it might sound woo-woo, is amazing. And I have done Reiki before, and it might seem like, what is someone doing? But it is so amazing and revolutionary to help you get back into your body. The same thing with acupuncture. Now, not everybody's into needles. I personally love acupuncture. If you have a good acupuncturist who uses very thin needles, acupuncture is unbelievable for moving energy through the body if movement is something that's not available for you and you're okay with needles, and maybe you're a little bit more okay with people touching your body a little bit. But these are some amazing, amazing ways to get into your body. And I just want to once again just reinforce that when it comes to healing, both of these pathways are needed to make a permanent change. Both of these pathways are needed to make a permanent change. You need to rewire your brain, but then you also need to unstagnate and clear the energy and generate new energy in the body. Because when we do these modalities, it really helps us to get out of our heads and into our bodies. And I'm not saying that you can't also do talk therapy. Them in tandem is really good, but I just want you to recognize, and if you are somebody who is like, but I've been in therapy for so long and nothing has really changed, I want you to listen to this and be like, maybe this is why, because I've just been living in my head and doing all the work in my head, and I haven't really transcended into the body. Because in order to really heal, you need to learn how to trust your body to create healing without needing to understand it or for it to make sense yet. Because understanding the why doesn't usually lead to healing by itself. Okay. Often healing comes from finally letting go of the why once we understand it and putting down the heaviness of it all, not having to talk about it anymore. You'll notice that once you integrate the healing, the understanding from your brain, and then you integrate it in the body, it's not something you're really going to want to talk about so much anymore. It's not something that you're necessarily going to want to forget, right? And who I am now is born out of all of my life experiences, not just my healing ones, but the struggle as well. It's not something that I pretend never happened, but it's not something I talk about unless I'm sharing in this arena. But it's not something that I continue to talk about because it actually is heavy. Now, in the beginning, it wasn't, because I was uncovering unconscious things and I was bringing to the consciousness things. But healing does often come from finally letting go of the why once we understand it and putting down the heaviness of it all. And these holistic modalities like Reiki, energy healing, acupuncture, walking meditation. Okay. And I say walking meditation rather than just seated meditation because walking meditation, like I said, gets you into your body. Seated meditation can sometimes, if you're not practiced in it, can do a similar type of thing that talk therapy can do, where your brain just kind of goes nuts thinking about everything and you're just in your head and it's all that. And that's part of it. And it's amazing to do seated meditation and train up your seated meditation practice, of course. But again, it's in tandem with the getting into your body practices like acupuncture and the things I've said. So I really hope that this episode was helpful in helping you understand the different pathways of healing and the ways that they don't conflict with each other, but how they complement each other and how it really does take a multifaceted healing strategy, I guess you could say that, to heal. And not just to heal where you understand why maybe you got to the place you got to, but where you can actually take the understanding and you can actually create a new experience through your body and really step into your high value and the life that you deserve. So on that note, thank you so much again for joining me today. And if today's episode resonated with you, please join me again next week with another new episode about emotional eating, so you can fall in love with eating, start losing weight, and keep it off with sustainable strategies and lasting change. And if you found this episode insightful, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with those who may benefit from this empowering knowledge. I also have lots of free resources on my website to support you on your journey to loving food and losing weight. Just go to www.bewellbyak.com. And until next time, I'm Alana, and thank you for listening to Emotional Eating.